And welcome back to the Hot Lap, our Saudi Grand Prix quali review. Another day, another dollar, another Max Verstappen pole. But he did say it was going to be pretty tight. 3/10, it was kind of tight, but well done Max Verstappen for securing a pole. I don't think it was an absolutely dead cert, just a cert. Not a dead cert, just a cert. But Max Verstappen getting pole, he's saying it wasn't as easy. They had to do some setup work on the car overnight, and he was much more confident today on that car. But other headlines, more Mercedes issues, more Mercedes bouncing with their car. Both drivers not particularly happy. We'll get into that. Leclerc praising Ollie Behrman. Yes, Oliver Behrman never set foot into the current Ferrari car. Just did a one-hour session after getting pole for the F2 and qualified 11th. I think that is a success. Also, Alpine. Yes, and again, Alpine. We get a few quotes from the drivers, and we'll get a few quotes from McLaren's fairly solid-ish, if not setting the world alight yet qualifying, but we think their race pace could be good. So let's get into that Saudi Grand Prix qualifying review. And Max Verstappen, he's credited improvements, it says here on Formula1.com, to his Red Bull overnight, allowing him to enter qualifying with confidence and secure what is his first ever Saudi Grand Prix pole. And when we scroll down to, he said, I really think I felt comfortable with the car. Throughout qualifying, it's pretty crazy how fast can you go around it. And it is I think on average speed overall, the second fastest circuit we go to. And he said, especially I think on my first lap in Q3, I was very happy with how I did. He said it almost felt a bit like that failed 2021 lap. Yet last corner, bang, no, did not get a pole. He said it was very good. I had a lot of fun and the car was behaving very well. And since joining the F1 calendar 3 years ago, it's provided some eventful races, the most being that first race in 2021. They've never had quite the peak in terms of controversy and incidents and things to talk about on track for once. Let's say on track. So this is the grid, or this is where everyone qualified, with Verstappen on pole, Leclerc about 3/10 off, Perez just over 3/10. From his teammate Verstappen, which I think Perez doing a fairly solid job. Red Bull will be happy with that. It's going to be interesting, though, how long Leclerc can keep him behind, because I think Red Bull have got that race pace, and Perez is good on street tracks. What if Perez is faster than Verstappen? I don't think he will be in the race, though. They had a ding-dong, didn't they, last year? Alonso in fourth. He's going to be fairly happy, I think. Piastri's Norris, fifth and sixth on that third row. I reckon they'll be getting Alonso in the race. Alonso, really good qualifying, but that Aston Martin, if Bahrain was anything to go by, is possibly the fifth fastest car behind Mercedes. And speaking of Mercedes, 7th and 8th, disappointing for Mercedes. Where were they? It would appear, because they're so close to each other, it would appear that neither of them have that much confidence in the car, if I'm honest. Tsunoda in 9th is going to be absolutely extremely happy, destroying, unfortunately, one of the, Mr. Smiley, Daniel Ricciardo. I think he's wiped the smile off his face for now. The race could be very different, though. Lance Stroll in 10th. Yeah, not able to match Alonso. 4/10 off. It's Lance Stroll. 11th, Oliver Behrman. I mean, yes, a round of applause for you, Oliver Behrman. Absolutely well done. Fantastic. 12th, Albon. I think that's as good as he was going to get. Magnussen 13th. Once again, I think as good as that Haas is going to get here. Ricciardo. Oh, Daniel, you need to do better than that. Fingers crossed for the race. Hulkenberg, he stopped, didn't he? Causing that red flag. Yeah. But still, Haas out of Q1, which is something, again, we did not think would be happening 2 weeks ago. Bottas 16th, Ocon 17th, Gasly 18th. Okay, one better a bit for Alpine. And then Logan Sargent's 19th, and Zhou no time because he crashed in free practice 3. And Logan Sargent doing Logan Sargent things. Yeah. He needs to really prove why Williams resigned him. I think the pressure, not on yet, but if this keeps up, the pressure's going to be on, isn't it? So, let's get into our winners and losers of qualifying. I've already given you a bit of a clue. So, winners and losers. Shall we start with the losers, shall we? Sadly, our first loser is this guy. Oh, Daniel Ricciardo. About half a second off your teammate. It's not good, is it? He needs to improve. But I think he should be stronger in the race. He needs to be stronger in the race. So fingers crossed for the race. But I think almost as disappointed, well, maybe even more, that Mercedes. I mean, we all thought, okay, Bahrain, is that an outlier? It's more looking like W13 than W12. And that Mercedes, not fast at all. I mean, yes, they are probably the fourth fastest car here. I think they have the potential to be second or third fastest car. What can they do for the race? I do not know, but fingers crossed, we'll see. Now let's get into our winners. Fernando Alonso. Yes, that massive grin there. Fernando, I mean, absolutely fantastic. Second row, well done. I do think he's going to go back in the race, but that's more the car than Fernando, let's be honest. Charles Leclerc, massively happy there, beating the other Red Bull, getting on that front row, having a chance to maybe even lead the race into that first corner. I thought he wasn't very aggressive come Bahrain. I was if I'm honest, I'm kind of a bit disappointed, really. In Bahrain, he was just, more kitten than cat, I think. And I can't help but feel he should have given Verstappen a slightly harder time, but we'll see. We'll see in Saudi Arabia. And talking of Verstappen, he's got to be happy because I do think, at some point I'm going to stop him being a winner when he gets pole because, hey, that's his job. That's what he should do in the best car. But I do think it wasn't an absolute guarantee. Just a guarantee. But he did good. He still had to do the lap, and it was a really, really good lap. Yes, in a really, really good car. But, and here's the part, the star of qualifying, Oliver Behrman, amazing job. I mean, this guy puts it on F2 pole, beats his teammate Kimi Antonelli that everyone is talking about, everyone is hyping up. This is going to be Hamilton's replacement, they say. Don't get me wrong, I still think he's really good. But Oliver Behrman puts it on pole position for F2, then gets told, mate, you're driving for Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, and then goodness me, what must be going through his head, eek, and then he puts it P11. Some people might think that's a disappointment in what could be the second best car. Bear in mind, he's never driven that Ferrari. 2, he had about 1 hour to set the car up. 3, Saudi Arabia is not like, for example, Monza, where Nick de Vries had an absolutely fantastic debut. It's a much harder track. There's lots of technical parts. And like Monaco on street tracks, you build up your confidence because of all those curbs. Yes, he had a brush with the walls. He had a brush with the wall a couple of times. But hats off to you, Oliver Behrman. You did fantastic. I mean, yeah, fair play to you. So let's get into our other headlines then, shall we? Coming out of qualifying. So we have got more Mercedes bouncing. Yeah, this is from motorsport.com. Hamilton bouncing, still spoiling the potential of the Mercedes car. I thought they got rid of this. We all thought they got rid of this. Hamilton says bouncing ruined his qualifying session for the Formula 1 Saudi GP, despite an overnight rear wing change. That did, though, to be fair, improve his Mercedes. But he wasn't happy on Thursday and switched to a bigger wing on Friday that gave the car more stability, but costing time in those straights. They really suffered, both Mercedes, in that first sector. And he progressed to the first 2 qualifying sessions in 11th and 10th positions. And let's not forget, Ollie Behrman nearly out-qualified Lewis Hamilton. He was not that million miles away of, beating him. But anyway, he took 8th when it mattered in Q3, a place behind George Russell, and he stressed that the bouncing was making life particularly difficult on that first part of the lap. He said it wasn't a really good qualifying at all. When asked about the session, he said, I struggled with the car yesterday, and then FP3, I was much happier with the car with a slightly bigger wing, but I was losing 2/10 in the straight. I gained some stability back and I was much happier, and I thought I would carry that into qualifying. But unfortunately, the bouncing was still there. It makes it very, very difficult to push through that for a session. That's why we were slow in the first sector. And he conceded that despite the bouncing trait, it does have more. The W15, fingers crossed. I mean, there is hope there. It does have more potential than its predecessor. When he said, I think if you took that away, the car is really so much better than last year in every area, he said. So, I mean, that's brilliant. That's good. But let's go from good to great. Yeah, Charles Leclerc, the man that had a really good qualifying. But he says Oliver Behrman, his new teammate for the weekend, did an incredible job to qualify 11th on the grid for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And as we know, the 18-year-old, just 18, still a teenager. I think he'll be the third youngest guy starting. Definitely the youngest ever British guy starting in Formula One. The youngest debut for Ferrari as well. In his first ever qualifying session after, standing in for Carlos Sainz. And he was just 0.03 of a second away from reaching Q3, which would have beaten the 7 times potential greatest of all time, Lewis Hamilton, on your first qualifying. Leclerc reached the Q3 split the Red Bulls, and has secured that front row start. And he said, first of all, I hope Carlos will recover quickly, he said. Then on Ollie's side, he's done an incredible job, obviously, with only 1 session in FP3. He said he was straight up the speed and comfortable with the car, so it's good. I'm happy for him, obviously. It's a very special day. The first race in Ferrari, having done only 1 session, I guess is even more special. So I hope that tomorrow we can have a great race, both of us, and score points for the team. Yes, Leclerc, positivity. Could we have a Ferrari victory? Unlikely, but as we mentioned here in our preview show, the safety car, that could come out and completely do a 180 on the entire race at the wrong time. You never know. So Alpine, Pierre Gasly has basically said, unfortunately, we had a challenging, let me see if I can get this a bit more in. No, sadly no. Okay, I'll read it. Unfortunately, we had a challenging qualifying session in Jeddah. They felt good on the lap, but the pace was just not there, said Mr. Gasly. And it's just sad, isn't it? Alpine, all these people are leaving Alpine at the moment. We've had, obviously, from Otmar, the disaster started, I think, in Belgium, and it's kind of just continued. And I just don't understand why. I do not understand why Alpine. This is a works team, for goodness sake. Why are they struggling so much? I just don't understand why they're struggling so much. So he said, I was lacking rear grip and the car was sliding a bit. We need to analyse why this happened and find solutions going forward. Even Bruno Famin said it's been a tricky day in Jeddah. They're keeping spirits high because I think that's the only thing they can do. Moving on up, M people should be there. And there's a lot of clever guys there as well. Not very good at all. I do feel for the team. I really do. So we've got McLaren qualifying. Oscar Piastri's come out and he has said, I think this was probably the most we could have got out of it, but it was a decent session. The car felt good. So he said Oscar Piastri said it was a decent session. The car felt good. All in all, he said we can be happy with that. We definitely still have some things to improve with the car, but I think we had a solid session, minus that little tap of the wall in Q1. Oops-a-daisy. Going into tomorrow, I think we're in a good position and hopefully we can move forward. And nicely, he said congratulations to Ollie Behrman on his efforts. Brilliant. Lando Norris said a good day. I don't think we could have asked for much more as a team. Pretty much, saying the same as Mr. Piastri. So I'm happy, he says. I think we've got the most out of the car. We went 4-1 with the tyres, which put us at a disadvantage in quali with 1 fewer set of tyres. That made our life trickier today, but we knew what to expect, and we hope it will pay us back for tomorrow. Fingers crossed there. And the boss, Andrea Stella, has said a good result for the team today in qualifying puts us in a strong position to score points tomorrow. Absolutely it does. Lando and Oscar made constant improvements today, session by session, and put together competitive laps in a field that was tight all the way through qualifying. So before we go, let's just remind ourselves of our winners and losers, shall we? Let's talk about the star of qualifying. Ollie Behrman gets into a Ferrari with a 1-hour practice session, and that's the first time he's driven the car, and he manages to qualify 11th. Points for tomorrow. 3rd youngest guy ever to start a Grand Prix, I think. The youngest Brit and the youngest Ferrari driver to ever start with them. Ollie Behrman, fingers crossed. Let's just hope you survive that first corner and gets points. The youngest driver to ever score points for Ferrari. That is what we want. Also, winners and losers. Losers. Oh, Daniel Ricciardo. Danny Rick. No. half a second off your teammate. You need to do better. We want you to do better. We want you in that other Red Bull. I mean, lots of people do. We want you to, you know, to do better. Fingers crossed for the race. As for the two Mercedes, the bouncing is back, says Lewis Hamilton. Slightly upsetting, isn't it? And for George Russell, they both qualified. They're definitely the fourth fastest car. What can they do in the race, though? Qualifying was disappointing. Bahrain showed they had potential before the engines overheat. Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. I think they'll do better in the race. Wonderful Alonso, but I can't help but feel his fourth place, he's going to go back. He's going to hit that reverse button like he did in Bahrain, but let's see how long he can hold off the McLarens and the Mercedes. Also, well done to Charles Leclerc. Absolutely fantastic. On that front row, can he at least gain the lead for a couple of laps? That would be lovely, wouldn't it? Can he hold off Sergio Perez in the other car? That would be equally lovely. And obviously, it wasn't as easy, I think, as some people think, but still, in the best car, yes, he did qualify on pole. It wasn't absolutely a dead cert, as we said, but still. Well done, Max Verstappen on pole, easily favourite for the race. And once again, give it up for Ollie Behrman, the Quali star, the star of qualifying, despite being 11th on your debut for Ferrari. Absolutely fantastic. This has been the Hot Lap. If you made it to the end, you are amazing. Like and subscribe, and we'll be back to talk about